I'm getting messages.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. We have a very special show for you today, and this show is Friday's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. So on a Friday, I never know what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say, but I know we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you are joining us in the chat room, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please be sure to ask them in the comment section, and I'll pass along your words of love, words of encouragement, or any questions you may have to today's guest. Now, again, before we get too far in the show, we're going to ask you to go ahead and share this interview because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. So today's guest is Mr. Robert Thor. Now, Robert Thor is now currently a Tampa Bay elder care consultant, but his story is amazing. It's one of those stories that I actually watched on television on my favorite channel, the ID channel. They covered part of his story. So we're going to introduce him to let him tell you personally about his life as it involves one of the largest Ponzi schemes in American history with Mr. Lou Pearlman, today's guest, Mr. Robert Thor. Good afternoon, Robert. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sharifah. How are you today?
I am wonderful. I'm excited about having you as a guest. And like I said, I saw part of your story on the ID channel. Back then, I didn't know who you were. So when I got the opportunity, I was like, yes, I have to speak to Mr. Thor. But we don't want to talk about all of those things. We want to talk a little bit more about life after what happened. So let's first start with what were you doing? How was your life before all of the madness?
Really like a fairy tale. It was really nice. I had my business partner at that time. She was my wife. We're divorced now, but we, had a very charmed life. Got two kids, two beautiful daughters, Monique and Maya, and we were obviously very successful. We were doing very well in the senior market in Florida. We worked throughout the whole state of Florida, and in meeting Lou, we met somebody that introduced us to him, Michael Cordelli, and we were at a convention in Chicago, and that's when it started. We came back, we went to Sands Lake, we met Lou, and it was just a company that kind of was one of an array of companies that we were working with. So we did due diligence with our attorneys and everything. It seemed to be really good, and life was fun. We always had fun even through that. I mean, obviously, we didn't know it was a Ponzi, So, so I have a copy of the book. Oh my gosh. And it's called Injustice. That's to do with NSYNC. So if you think of NSYNC, you're in the groove. Okay. So we were in justice. Some people think injustice like it's bad thing. No, we were in it because we didn't go to jail or anything. We were one of the good guys, and they persecuted us a bit. We were investigated by 3 different government agencies and survived. And thank God we had money to pay for that because it was quite expensive, to say the least. And but the book that I have, it's a true life story of Robert Thor, basically talks about my life growing up in New York when I was a little rugrat. And then obviously the last 10 years of it, it's a little spicy because of our business with Lou Pearlman. But there's beyond that, inside of that, we'll be talking about, I do humanitarian work. So it's really been a big focal part of my life and a very positive side of out of all of this. That's a big deal for me.
Wow, it's wonderful to be able to have a positive side and a rainbow after, the silver lining after everything that went on. But I think you took us through about a lot of years in 10 seconds.
A lot. Yeah.
Let's go back to the original meeting. You say you met Lou Pearlman, you didn't know everything that was going on, but what did you initially think? What were your thoughts? What were you sold on?
He's very charismatic. He was given the key to the city. This is pre-Backstreet Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no Backstreet Boys or anything like that. He had Transcontinental Airlines, and he had a product, an ESA product, like employee investment savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a product that worked well with our elder law attorneys. At that time, we were working with, eventually wound up with about over 20 different attorneys throughout the state of Florida. And so, yeah, it was very positive, very good. Everything seemed to be really, really cool. I recall one night in the limo, it was my wife's birthday, and the Nelson brothers, I don't know if you remember them, they had really long blonde hair in the 90s, I think. They were very popular. And they sang a song for her in the limo. So that was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just little things like that, meeting different talent. And sometimes they're, you know, the drivers of the limo. It's so funny. But we used to tease Lou about, you know, the Backyard Boys because they weren't popular. It took so long.
Mm-hmm.
They really worked really hard to make it. You know, NSYNC just walked right into it. I mean, not to say that they don't have talent or anything of the sort, but, you know, it was one Disney Channel, you know, they were exhausted and they came in and they blew up. You know, that's...
Yes. So when you met Lou, for anyone who hasn't followed the story, who doesn't understand, we definitely want them to go and pick up the book, and they can do that on your website at injusticebook.com, correct?
Correct. And
okay.
Inside of the book, we do have some insight. We did research on, you know, obviously things that we didn't know at that time in real time, but we went back in different articles and different things to clarify how, you know, brazen Lou was. And it was incredible how that, you know, it's a shame that he hurt a lot of people. He definitely hurt a lot of people.
What did you think you were investing in? Were you investing, or did you believe you were investing in the boy bands, in the management company? What were your thoughts?
Well, we invested in the company, Transcontinental. We did personally as well as our clients.
Okay.
So that was, so technically we're probably one of the larger victims. You know, we had a lot invested in the company. So, yeah, we were investing in Transcontinental Airlines.
Okay. So you were investing in the airline itself.
Right.
And
it seemed to be growing because the city of Orlando gave him the key to the city, gave them Church Street Station, which is the very heart of the city to develop and everything. And every different parts, like in New York, they have boroughs. Well, they have different sections of the, you know, of that county that had to put money into Church Street Station to develop it. So it was a pretty big deal for everybody, you know.
It had to be a pretty big deal for you. There's some excitement. You're going to your clients, you're contacting your clients, say, this is a good deal. I've invested in it myself. This is something you can take advantage of. So you actually went out on a ledge on his behalf to other people.
Well, you know, the way that we had our business model, because I'm an elder care consultant. I own a company, Long-Term Care Qualifications in Clearwater, Florida. You know, I've been working with the elderly since 1984. So it evolved from long-term care insurance and Medicare supplements and annuities to annuities and then actually filing for Medicaid. And so there's been an evolution with our business. And what we do is we would market, and at the time when we were involved with Transcontinental, we would go ahead and we marketed to nursing homes, they would refer to us, and then all we did was refer to the, you know, different attorneys, elder law attorneys that we worked with. And so at that time, obviously the client that's in the nursing home is not going to go to the appointment to see to see the elder law attorney. The power of attorney would go, and then they would get hired from the attorney, and then they would make their decision with the attorney on which product to go, and then they'd come back to us and we'd write it up. So it was pretty easy. We would market to the facilities and then refer them to the attorneys, and then they would dictate what we would be writing up. So it was kind of like if you go to a doctor and you got a cold. Oh, and I just spoke to somebody in London. I did a podcast this morning, and she had a cold. Oh my gosh, I felt so bad for her. But the bottom line is, he would prescribe a drug. Let's call it that, a drug, because that product saved the estate from it stopped the bleeding and actually helped them qualify for Medicaid, which is $8,000 to $12,000 a month in a nursing home. So then all we were was like the pharmacist. We just fulfilled the order, and that's it. So it was a pretty clean way to go. But the odd thing about that is they never really investigated the attorneys.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was like totally because their education is beyond. They have more in the legal aspect of it. They did the contract, because it was a private annuity. So, but the state just looked at it and didn't take the time to really say, no, they're salespeople. But this wasn't a typical sale for us. We didn't go out and just like what you suggested earlier as well, here, like a one-on-one type of situation where I'm going ahead and making a contact sale. They would come in after meeting and being hired by the attorney and getting advice. Yes,
right. So they did a lot of the work. Fantastic. Now, if you are just now tuning in, we are speaking with Mr. Robert Thor, who is discussing his new book, Injustice, which is available on his website at injusticebook.com. And that is the letter N for injusticebook.com. And if you are just now tuning in, if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to add your questions or comments in the comment section, and I'll go ahead and pass them along to our guests. I want to thank you, everyone who's tuning in, who's putting up the hearts, the thumbs. We definitely appreciate your support. We want to thank Morris Sweeney for watching the show. We want to also thank Linda Sigmund. Horrible with names, forgive me, Linda, but thank you, Linda, for joining. Linda says, very interesting life story.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Robert, so we discussed a little bit about the initial meeting, the lawyers. So how did you find out? What happened when you actually found out? And again,
believe it or not, it was
you might have to read the book, but how did you find out?
Well, there's a little, instead of the song, the Beach Boys, the little lady from Pasadena, it was the little Jewish woman from Largo, and she had filed a complaint with a guy in Largo on an investment, kind of like a bait and switch. He promised in an advertisement some type of product, and it wasn't there. And then it wound up being transcontinental. She was upset because she already invested and wanted to do something different. And so she complained to the state. My partner came up as a name in reference, so we met with the state. We met with an attorney prior to meeting with the state, and he was present as well on the meeting. And that's the first time I ever heard the term Ponzi. He goes, well, it could be this, it could be that, or it could be a Ponzi. And I go, what do you mean? Like Potsy from Happy Days? What do you mean? Like what? Yeah. And then he tried to explain a little bit of it. It's a fraudulent investment is what it is. Now we know, and we've heard about it from Madoff and a whole bunch of others. But at the time, Madoff was out there, and I'm sure he saw this go down. But there was no market crash or anything like that. What happened was we landed like on Plymouth Rock. We worked with the state and we cooperated with them. And in the beginning, they just said it was it was a registration issue. Okay.
So you thought no big deal. It's just a registration issue.
Actually, we were very conservative. So registration. So if it's not registered with the state, so the first thing I thought of, and I talked to my attorney, was, I don't think my E&O insurance covers that. So that's errors and omissions insurance. So basically what happened was, we wrote a letter to Lou, saying, hey, we're not selling your product any longer. We're not representing your company any longer. But the state said, you can go ahead and sell it. You can keep selling it. And after the fact, when we did research and we found out that Charlie Crist at the time was the state attorney, the attorney general. Mm-hmm. And so he wasn't the governor yet or anything like that. And he seems to be a good guy, but he dropped the ball on this. He was investigating Lou, and they stopped the investigation. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate because that hurt a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Because that would have been shut down. Instead, Lou paraded it like, hey, I'm clean. They were just here, they were just they were in Lou's transcontinental office in Church Street Station that was also over at Sands Lake. So, they were going through all of his stuff. And if they had more time, probably would have shut it down. Mm-hmm. But instead, we did, mm-hmm. And that probably saved us we got some consideration, but we didn't get immunity. And we were went after us with the spookiest part of it was when we received target letters. Mm-hmm. We put the kids to bed, they were young. And we opened up the letters because they were from the Federal Bureau of Investigations. I had two, she had one. And the letter was a target. You are the subject of a target by the FBI. So everything, as humans, what we think about everything. All kinds of what's going to happen, who's going to raise our kids, are we going to wind up in jail, this, that. You start going through all kinds of scenarios. But in life, it's like that with everything. If you think about it, if you have I apologize, but if you get a diagnosis of cancer, there's so many things that go through your head. If you have illness or, something with business or divorce or what have you, all kinds of things go through your head. So at that time, we were in bed crying, just wondering what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, we had to get like a Tampa Bay's dream team together to, prove our innocence. We've had so many attorneys hired. I recall one meeting up in top of a building in Tampa, Florida. There were like 6 attorneys there on our behalf, and we're paying the bill. It's crazy.
Right. No, just listening to you, you seem so calm, you seem so positive, happy. But like you said, you were in the bed crying. So this definitely haven't been an easy time for you. Now, and you also mentioned the target letters. Now, the letters came from the FBI, but I'm sure you had to have some kind of communication coming from your clients, maybe people who heard about your involvement. And then I read in your information that Lou himself actually sent a letter to your client.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that and everything.
That my partner, Charlotte, was under investigation.
Oh, wow.
And she wasn't at the time. Eventually, they, like I said, a target letter. Mm-hmm. And so, so he was trying to deflect, trying to bounce that off or beat it off and trying to get as much time. But, everything was up. He knew it. He knew it at that time. I'm sure, like Madoff or other, they knew that their time was going to come. That's why I think in his defense, he didn't even put up a fight. But what's really odd in this country, which probably happens in a lot of governments around the world, we really cool and nice people, honest, and we've had a great reputation. Obviously, with something like this, it gets really messed up, Hence the reason why I wrote it. And the title is Injustice, because we were. And a lot of that had to do with our faith. We go to church, we're church-going people. I'll plug my church, Harborside Christian Center in Safety Harbor, Florida. So, you know, faith got us through it. And forgiving Lou, I forgave him, cursed him a few times, I'm sure, more than I needed to. But I forgave him. You know, you can't go around holding on to that. That's pretty heavy for the rest of your life, to have that bitterness eating you up inside out. It's just not a good thing. So I actually called him and left a message. I was at the police were playing, I was at a concert in Tampa, and I think it was the Ice Palace at that time, they called it. And I sent him a message and I said, dude, man, I forgive you. Because he was not only a business associate, but it got personal. We were friends. You know, I hung out at his place. He's come over to Clearwater when we lived on the beach, and he stayed. We put him up at a hotel across the street with some other bands that he was working with. And the sad thing about, you know, why, you know, our reputation was tarnished, because when the feds went out to our business associates as well as friends, and they would conduct business, you know, like investigations. That's what the Federal Bureau does. They go out and you're a target. So they go around looking, you know, is it under here? Is it under here? Is it, you know, they're looking for dirt. One of the things that they did, like Nazi Germany, is after talking to people, they said, you know, they're not good people. They're under investigation. Our advice is you shouldn't hang out with them.
Oh, wow. That's horrible.
That's really horrible propaganda. I mean, you're talking about some, you know, Charlotte and I have never done anything to hurt anybody. Anybody. And, you know, in business, not a red cent. Through this investigation, not a red cent, no fines, no nothing. No immunity until after, well, Charlotte and I were separated, and there was an agent. I guess there was a large deposit. And you believe the state gave us immunity, brought us in with we had an attorney with us to ask us, do you think that Lou, you know, would have lied and this guy would have known about the Ponzi? Because they already started their investigation. So guess what? We said, yeah, of course he's going to lie. He lied to us. He lied to everybody. What do you think? You know, and actually my attorney had to call us out of the office because I was a little ticked that, you know, they put us through a whole bunch of stuff. I was looking they have a paper with a graph with circles and lines, you know, like a web. And I was like, oh, that's all us. You know, we created this Ponzi to break and, you know, to fall. To be realized, because nobody realized it. The state didn't. They had a shot with Charlie and his office. And just these two people from Clearwater, you know, at that time our company was Golden Security. And, you know, it's a shame that, but we brought it down, and it was tough. We had tough days. I would be a little bit down, and then she would bring me up, and then vice versa. You know, we made it through it, but our marriage didn't survive it. You know, I think the biggest point to that would be the biggest focal point, which she didn't realize, and I don't think she does still, was when our defense attorney said, you know, this room is the only room that you can talk because, you know, it's soundproof and it's got protection. You know, that would have been fine if it was your business partner, but it's your bloody wife too.
Right.
So that kind of, can I say sucks? Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
We can definitely say sucks.
Sucks the big one. You know, so, you know, after a while, the communication went to, you know, to hell and back. And,
but you made it through. I mean, but you say your partner was your wife. I mean, you made it through. I mean, there are so many people who, whatever they go through, it affects the marriage, it affects the family, any kind of tragedy. You know, again, I love ID channel. I watch it all the time, and it's usually some tragedy, then the divorce, and then they go their own separate ways. But again, through your faith, through your church, you made it through. What are some of the things that you learned about your tenacity, your ability to weather this storm?
The easiest thing would be loving people. I mean, that's the easiest thing that I can go to because I allowed that to happen. Harborside, my pastor Kurt said, "Hey, Robert, why don't you go to Nicaragua?" And it's leaving. They're leaving Saturday. That was a Sunday. We were having lunch after church, and I went. And it kind of been a big part of my life. It changed a lot of what you don't see. Maybe it comes out in my personality. I don't know. But love is what I got from that. It's like that song. Love is what I got. So don't forget that, because that's what happened. We went there, we worked on an orphanage, we worked on some construction site. We did so many cool things with the kids because they're so poor and need so much.
So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Nicaragua, but before we move on to, again, life after this tragedy, because I'm going to call it tragedy. This is a tragic thing that happened to you, not something that you was like, oh, let me just be a part of this. It happened to you, and it was very tragic. So if you are just now tuning in, we are speaking with Mr. Robert Thor, and we are discussing one of the largest Ponzi schemes in American history. And life goes on. So how has life been after that? So if you have your questions, if you have your comments, please feel free to ask your questions or comments in the comment section, and I'll read it to our guest. And be sure to go ahead and share this interview. Friends, do not let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah Videocast. So much information to share, and our guests are giving you their time, their energy to be able to share their story with you. So Timothy Shackton, I guess. Again, I apologize, Timothy. I'm horrible with names. But Timothy says, "Hi, Thor. Great interview."
Thank you, Timothy. Happy Friday. I hope you're doing well. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the love.
Yes, we definitely appreciate the love. So now we want to talk about Nicaragua. I know you said your pastor said go to Nicaragua, but I want to talk about the time between crying in bed and Nicaragua. How long was that? And sometimes we have to stay in a situation for a moment, and then all of a sudden it's like a bolt of lightning that says, you know what? I can't stay here. I have to move forward. I have to go on with my life. That's over. That's the past. How long before you decided to move forward?
Well, I didn't know I was going to move forward in going to Nicaragua. I thought it was, okay, I'll go missions trip. Okay, I love that song, Don't Mess with the Missionary Man.
I see you like music.
That's about the only thing that I, at that time, the only thing I can relate to missions and missionary outside of visits at church, but on a one-on-one personal level, no, I don't know anything about that. And so I went, and it was right around the same time, because in one of our first attorneys that we met with, it was really cool because I visualized it, and he was very good at that. You have to learn how to compartmentalize things. So open up a drawer, and you're dealing with the stuff in that drawer, and then close it and go to the next one. Because in this, we're raising kids, we have a business, we have, the many attorneys at one time, different things going on. And then, we couldn't talk to anybody. But I said we couldn't talk to our, each other. Our family doesn't really know anything about, we couldn't tell anybody or our friends because they can get, indicted or whatever. You don't want to say anything to anybody. So we had to internalize it and keep it together, or obviously talk to God above, and give it to him. And, our faith got us through it, and that's the big thing. I've had Moira would be very upset with me if I didn't bring up the beginning of my book, my childhood. I was born in 1959. I'm turning 60 this year.
Oh, wow.
So in 59, they gave my mom and I our last rites because, these days they got guys that are going into pregnancies gung-ho. They're specialists. They know how to deal with, hard, difficult pregnancies. But back in the 50s, no. They brought in the Catholic father, and, that was that. We made it through it. And then And so I'll fast forward to when I was lucky 13. I turned 13. We moved to Florida. I really didn't know about high or low tides or anything like that, being a city boy from New York. And we were diving in the morning, and it was no problem. We went for lunch, hung out, played, came back. We were diving off a bridge. I dove off the bloody bridge and hit bottom.
Oh, wow.
All my ligament, broke my neck. Oh, wow. So I get to Morton Plant Hospital, and Dr. Hollowell had just lost his daughter in a pool, diving in the pool. And she died in his arms in his home. And so he was my guy. And then he brought in Dr. Kilgore. I needed a surgery, and my mom wasn't going to go for it because, you know, I had traction, these things in my head and weights and everything. And by the way, you should have heard my language. Oh my God. When they were putting in the needles, the New York side of me came out, and oh my God, I'm surprised they didn't just put soap in my mouth or something, you know. It's just, I was like, you know, it's crazy. And it was around the 4th of July too when that happened. It was summer. And basically I needed a surgery, spinal fusion. Mm-hmm. And my mom was not, she was so afraid. You can imagine, I don't know if you're a parent or not.
Yes.
So, yeah, imagine, you know, your kid is, the surgery was 3 times more dangerous than open heart surgery at the time.
Oh, wow. Mm.
If I didn't have the surgery, you pat me on the back and I could be paralyzed or die because there was no ligaments. There was 2, 3, 4 was separation. So, but you know, whatever. We went to a Morris Cirillo. He's out in LA. He's an evangelist out there. He's Jewish convert. And he prayed. He was at the old, it wasn't a park all the time, Curtis Hickson. It was actually a place where we used to have concerts and stuff. Well, he prayed for me. I was slain. I was like, I had confidence. Mm-hmm. I just, you know, it wasn't about being healed or anything like that. I was just like, I have confidence. I had a peace inside of me. Mm-hmm. You know, and so that was a Sunday night. My mom called and she was like, what do you mean you want that surgery? Because I said, I want the surgery. Mm-hmm. And there was no way I didn't want that surgery. You know? But after that peace came over me. I was like, cool. Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's all right. Mm-hmm. And so my mom called the doctors. We have a room waiting for your son. Please come immediately. Because she didn't really understand how dangerous it was. She was scared, as you can imagine. And so the surgery was a success. Mm-hmm. You know, pretty active, tennis, basketball, can't do football. I used to love football. Well, maybe church league. I did cheat a little bit, but I snowboard, which is a big taboo. I love it. And, you know, I'm pretty active for it's, you know, it's at a point where you just don't have an age. You mm-hmm. just don't go for it because it's how you feel and how you are mentally and your heart. Even though your physical aspects, you know, genetics and stuff like that have a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. But I'm eternally grateful for the outcome of that. And so I already had things. The reason why I brought these things up is because I've already had a well to go to. Mm-hmm. You know, I already had things that I could go to. I made it through birth. I made it through this mm-hmm. catastrophic health injury by, you know, almost being paralyzed.
Wow, I'm definitely sorry to hear that. And I can definitely understand the reasons or part of the reasons why you brought it up. One of the things that people say, I don't know how true it is or not, that when we have these challenges where we almost lose our life, they say, you know, there's a purpose, there's a reason, there's something that you still have to do here on this earth. So, you know, you lived through your situation at birth, you lived through almost being permanently paralyzed. There's something there for you. Now, I, for one, would not believe that it was this challenge with Lou Pearlman. I look forward to what you're doing in Nicaragua. You know, you're helping people. You know, your life was almost taken away on several occasions, not physically with this situation with Lou Pearlman, but your life was taken away, the life as you saw it, the life as you knew it. And now you're dealing with this whole tragedy. So there's definitely something more for you. So again, let's talk about the rebuilding, the life. When you went to Nicaragua, you saw the children, and how did that make you feel? What did you do at that point?
Well, when I came home from my first trip, I was like a chick, man. I was crying. Oh my gosh. I remember getting home and taking a shower, sitting down in the shower crying, just, because we have so much here in our country and how pathetic it is in other countries. And so I found a niche. There was some of the guys from church and I said, well, I'd like to go back. And we went back with the church, but it didn't satisfy me enough. It just wasn't enough. With the church and also in our endeavors, we would do medical missions. So we would go, in Nicaragua, they don't have a social system. It's a dictatorship. So we would go to different villages outside of, in the boonies. They had never seen a physician in their life before.
Oh, wow.
And the beautiful thing about that is that, the physician would pray for them. That's kind of cool. And then on the way back, we would talk and say, well, what's the biggest problem? Analyze what we did, and a lot of it was the water. So we hooked up with different organizations. The Rotary Club had a really cool drill, and we got on the different villages on a list, and we were able to get a bunch of, because they go to the river. And that water is so polluted. It's got so many things. Chronic giardia was the biggest problem that we ran across there. So water was a big problem. And teaching them how to, Bill, my brother Bill he's a professor over at the University of South Florida. And he would do classes on that, on water. And because he's kind of a professor on drugs, and he just loves to teach, and it was so beautiful to watch him teach these little Nicaraguans and people, just all, ages. You have a glass of water from the river is malo, he would say. And then the water from the rain is okay. But the other water, we did wells too. So this is good. Está bueno. So that was it. It was really cool, doing that there. Right now, I've been, for the last 2 years, going to Cuba. I go to Cuba now.
I'm dying to go. That's where I want to go.
Totally different than Nicaragua, because there you got a dictatorship that's, whatever. And then, their kind of voodoo wife of his, that it's pretty wild, man, I'll tell you. But I got, at the time, it wasn't his wife wasn't the VP. I got friendly with the vice president that was there because I had enough trips and he wanted to meet, and it was really cool. So it's in the book. Okay? It's in the book.
At injustice.com.
So in Cuba, it's completely different. It's communism. It's not the same thing. It's in Havana, you have Havana, and it's a little bit like Disney World. And then when you get out, because where I go is out Matanza. I go out to Matanza, and I partnered with the Cuban Connection Ministries, and I don't have a lot of photographs. I can personally send, but I can't post a lot of them because it's a communist country. If you're giving more to this people, then that's not equal. So you can get in trouble. So it's a totally different landscape, and you can't bring anything in. I remember when my daughters were going to Skycrest in Clearwater, and one of the trips if you brought old sneakers, you could dress down. You don't have to wear the uniform. So we had so many sneakers. Oh my gosh, for these kids. And we had the size range. It was so much fun. We had, when you give and you're doing for other people, you receive more. And if there's one thing that you could get out of, two things. The first thing is giving and being a giver and giving of yourself. You could be kind of like, helping somebody with the door. That's okay. You want to know what? That's a part of it. It's just thinking of other people. I know it's hard when you're driving. Jeez, especially you in LA, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show, and we have some comments coming in. So I want to make sure that if you have a question, if you have a comment, go ahead and add your questions or comments so we have enough time to get them in during the show. Again, my apologies to everyone. My pronunciation of names can't be the best, but Kirby Hoban Hamdow, okay, I'm just going to go with that, says, "Hi, Thor. Finally can comment. I loved your book. Your life story is amazing. Defying the odds." So that was Kirby.
So define the odds. The odds of, how would I take that? I have to.
The life, you know what I mean? You just defy the odds, and you're continuing to tell your story.
Yeah,
so people always say,
I didn't hear it on the, okay, I got it. I defied the odds. Yeah.
Yes. So definitely. So thank you, Kirby. Linda Stack Trebuzio says, "Hi, Thor." Viviana Alexandrini says, "Ciao." And Linda Stack Trebuzzi says, "So right." So again, if you have questions or comments, please go ahead and ask them or post them in the comments section. I'll go ahead and read them to our guests. Linda says, "Thor is such a great person. Love your book too."
Oh, thank you, Linda. Yeah. All the love goes out to you guys. Thank you.
Ciao, Bella. Love it. Definitely. So let's go back to, again, the book, injusticebook.com, to pick up your copy.
So like NSYNC, injustice. It's not in, like it's in, like, you're in sync, you got a good dance move. So I'm injustice. So that's the big thing. I think that's very important, because without being injustice, I don't think we could have survived without being true to ourselves and getting through this without faith. Really important, and forgiveness is very important too. And still, you can't just stop forgiving, and you just can't stop having faith. Go plug my book again.
Yes, injusticebook.com, in the letter N, justicebook.com. You can pick up a copy of Injustice. So Robert, what made you decide to write the book? Did you feel that you had to tell your side of the story? Was there so much that people didn't understand? They just kind of looped everybody into one little basket and said, everybody's guilty, everybody's wrong. You're like, wait a minute, let me tell my side.
Absolutely. I mean, we're the only ones that came out without having any jail time or any fines or anything like that. Because and it wasn't preferential treatment. They went at us. I told you, like that Nazi Germany propaganda that they did to our business associates. And it was really tough, a really tough time. But my name, my name is really important to me, as yours is. And, your reputation, clarifying that, making sure that that's intact. And because I have one story, and I believe it's in the book as well. I did a married small group in our church. And one of the people in our group, we had him out Friday nights, and Charlotte said before, as we're cleaning up the house, making it look all nice and neat, when you have kids. So we're making everything look nice and everything, and said, well, don't say anything about the Lou Pearlman thing. And I go, well, what do you mean? This is what it's about. This is how we have to try to say some things. We have to be careful, but it's important that people know, how do they know what to pray for?
Right.
So at the end of the session, the group, small group, I was the last one since the host, and Charlotte didn't bring up anything of it, but I did. And I just, and it was a good thing, because that Sunday I saw he did the forward on the book, Phil Huff, my brother, my African brother from another mother. He's from Sierra Leone. But he's blonde and blue eyes, but his father's a missionary man. He was born there. But he, it was a good thing I told him, because when we hugged it in the main lobby, and because this is going back in the middle of it, somebody, as I said about my reputation, you asked why the book. He came over to him, some guy came up to him and said, "What are you doing being friendly with that guy? Don't you know he's a bad guy?" And something along those lines. Phil, I love the fact that he's so Sierra Leone. He went and said, "Come with me." And he took him into one of the offices and gave him the riot act and said, "He's the one that put him behind bars. He's the one, this is the reason why it's going down. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't you ever say anything about that again, because that's the bloody truth." If we didn't, because, oh, by the way, the state said, as I said earlier, we could have gone ahead and kept selling it. We didn't have a conscience or didn't have any business ethic or anything. We could have gone ahead and not cooperated with the state. Nothing would have happened at that era. But eventually, I would imagine, as Madoff or anything else, would have come tumbling down. But, we prayed, and we, have, I think, a really good level head. We put the guy behind bars, And since then, we did correspond. Jesus. I wrote him a letter, and he replied. And so, he passed away over 2 years ago in jail. And it's funny, like 2.5 years or 3 years now, and we just, a year and a half ago, we just finished with the Ponzi, dealing with all the stuff that we had to deal with. So it was like a solid decade.
Wow. So you just kind of ran that by us. So I want to go back. So you said you wrote a letter to Lou Pearlman.
Yeah.
And he replied.
Yes.
No, we don't want to discuss everything in the response. But did he ever, say, "I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, dude," like anything?
No.
Okay. That's horrible.
Yeah. Well, he was asking about, Charlotte and the girls and this, and kind of replying from, because you have to understand, my letter wasn't anything of pointing the finger at him. I didn't do that. I did it in
with love.
Yeah, like the love, like a baby child. You have to have faith. You have to remember, like, when as we get older, we forget. How we were. You want to say naive, you could say, but it's really, as we get older, we have life on us. And so. Yeah, so I just gave him love and everything, and he responded, in 10 as well, very nice, cordial. One of the funny questions I asked him, do they have proper apple juice? And he says, "No proper apple juice here at all." What the heck? It was horrible what he did, but you've got to forgive. And I can't hold that against him, because he's going to meet his maker in his day, and whatever that is, or if he comes back to life as something else, it doesn't matter your religious beliefs, whatever they are, you can have fun with it. He came back as a water buffalo in Thailand. I don't know, whatever, you could, I don't,
But that's his life, his journey, but you communicated, you were able to speak to him. It's over, it's done, it's water over the bridge. But I'm glad that you had the ability to tell your side. I'm so proud of you on the book. Kirby, who said that you defied all odds, wants to clarify her response. So Kirby says, "You're welcome." She said, "You did survive your childbirth and when you broke your neck. Happy that you made it through. No jail time either, especially since you were innocent in this. And you saved your reputation with all your good deeds."
Well, I have something that I have on my Facebook. It's like you have 9 pictures you could put on your thing. And it's a picture on my first trip to Nicaragua. And my late friend Dan Moore is in the photo with me, but there's this cute little Nicaraguan children, and they have like Halloween outfits on because they got clothes from kids in the United States, hand-me-downs. And because we were in a rainforest. Mm-hmm. So I put a little something on there. Love isn't what you say. Love is what you do. Mm-hmm. So it's what you do. I mean, you could say anything, it's what you do. And so that's one of the things that I've been able to do is, be a loving person and always there for my friends, my family. And I think what I want to be remembered is a 4-letter word.
Love, love, love. I think that's so powerful. I almost want to just end on love is not what you say, love is what you do. But at the end of every show, I always allow my guests the opportunity to just speak directly to the people who are watching the show live, to whoever's watching in the archives, and just really let them know what you want them to take away from your interview.
Well, I think at a glance from this interview, and I thank you for being a great host, it's been really fun, nice, just keep on, in the 70s, the t-shirt with the guy with the big foot, keep on trucking, keep on going. It's hard at times. Hey, we're human. We're going to have little setbacks. We're going to have, whether it's physical, emotionally, and your world around you, people. So, and your health is a big thing. I learned that at a young age. And from 13 on, I lived my life. So now we have another one. Mm-hmm. Like there's no tomorrow. Because for me, there was no tomorrow. At 13, I didn't hit the wall. I didn't hit the bridge. I hit the bottom. Mm. And so in my life, if you read the book, every part of my life, I never thought I'd achieve that. Because I was always grateful. Mm-hmm. I was always grateful of everything. I have 2 amazing, beautiful daughters, Monique and Maya, and oh my gosh, I had a great marriage for over 30 years. That was, people say, oh, but in that period, it was really fun. It was a lot of fun, and most people don't ever get to experience that. So that's kind of a blessing. Mm-hmm. So I gotta, maybe I'll find another blessing. Who knows? So you just got to keep on trucking and believing, and having faith and keep loving. And I think people can hear it in your voice and how you are. And, I don't know if you feel the love.
We definitely feel the love. And it's authentic because every time you speak, you bring it back to the love. You bring it back to the love. You bring it back to the forgiveness, to the love. Every moment when you're going through it with the FBI, when you're going through it with the lawyers, you just bring it back and you're so calm. You're so peaceful, and I just love your energy. I just love what you're doing. So I want to thank you for being a guest on today's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast.
Thank you so very much, and have a great weekend.
Yes, you are so welcome. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. We definitely appreciate you. I would be so wrong, terrible host, if I did not thank Maura Sweeney for all of her support, everything that she's done, and for allowing me to even have this interview. So thank you, Maura. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Linda, Viviana, Timothy, Kirby, everyone who's watching, all the hearts, all the thumbs up, all the support. Thank you to everyone. If you are interested in watching more of my interviews, then being a guest on Ask Sharifah Videocast, or even placing your product or service in front of the Ask Sharifah audience, visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until then, everyone have a wonderful and blessed weekend. Bye now.